Okay, episode 15. Hi, everyone. It's Dr. Danielle Clark. You're here with the Win-Win Women Network. I am excited today. We're going to have a conversation with a guest, Sarah Janik, about holiday blues, ideas to cope. If you're here live, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Don't forget to wait until after the show. Sarah and I are going to be available for live Q&A and live readings. No worries if you're not here live and you're catching the replay. It's the same good information and it's the same good energy. I am a business professor, I am a psychic medium, and a spiritual teacher. You can find more about me at drdanielleclark.com. And so it is. Sarah, hello. Thanks for being a guest on Onwards. How are you?
Hi, so good. Thank you for having me.
I love this conversation, mostly because I personally identify with the holiday blues. And so I'm so excited to have a chat with a friend about holiday blues and ideas to cope personally and professionally. Before we get into it, Sarah, tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so hi, my name is Sarah Janik. I am a psychic medium. My absolute passion is doing mediumship readings and connecting people to their loved ones in the spirit, but I'm also a registered nurse in dialysis, and then a mom and a wife and all of that. So lots of stuff going on, but grief and holiday blues, I think it's such an important topic, especially in what we do with like the mediumship side of stuff. I think it can be so all consuming for people. And I think to help give people some pointers and tips and even acknowledgements that, it's okay to be where you're at. It's just so important.
Yeah, thank you. I agree. It's so okay and important to be where you're at. I think for me, what's grounding and what takes me out of the holiday blues is remembering that I don't need to feel like every day is a Hallmark movie. And sometimes we forget that, right? Everything's a little glamorized and everything's almost portrayed a little too perfect. And then when we see that movie or we see that picture or we see that family, or even if we concoct that idea on our own, it can then become sad when you're like, I'm not feeling that way. I'm missing dad in heaven, or I'm missing the aunt that no longer is in our family because of a conflict, right? And so one of the things I like to do is to remind myself, while the holidays can have some magic, and while it absolutely has some love and lightness, there shouldn't be forced expectations. Can you identify with that, Sarah?
Absolutely. I was actually just thinking of this when you were saying that, but I think sometimes that little voice inside of our head, it's like the expectation versus reality. And a lot of times I think when you're going through grief or challenging times, which can be anything from like a divorce to like empty nester or anything like that, but especially when we're going through the holidays that, when you should be happy or the holidays should be uplifting and you should feel a certain way, that voice inside your head is just, I should do this, I could do that. It's important to kind of acknowledge that and the feelings that you're experiencing, but also not hold yourself to that expectation, because it's not reality. It's not, everybody's always going through something.
Yeah, it's accepting where we're at. And the key word that you said a few times was should. I think for those listening, that's a cue in and of itself. If you keep telling yourself, I should be doing this, I should be feeling that word should is like, okay, no, I'm not where I need to be. I like how you mentioned the empty nester syndrome. I'm not there yet. I have a 16-year-old, and he's healthy and happy and lives with us, and he's such a joy, and he appreciates everything we give him. But there's still some grief in that. Like, I miss being Santa, right? Like, I miss joy of having a little kiddo to bake cookies with. And so while I appreciate the family now too, there are some subtle sadness within the holidays, right? The recognition of what was, while still appreciating what is. I'm curious from your nursing standpoint, working, with those overcoming and navigating significant health challenges. How does the holidays show up for them when you're caring for them in a hospital environment during this time of year?
I think it's the little things, just slowing down and making sure that you have conversations with people, check in and see how they're doing, and kind of like make it a safe place to talk, and not just have people identify with their illness, but make it about, like, how are your grandchildren doing? What are you up to this weekend? Like, what kind of help, almost not diverting, but also kind of acknowledging some of the things in our life that are going right, or maybe
Mhm.
more uplifting or inspiring, can kind of change somebody. I think even just having someone to sit and listen to you when you're going through a difficult time, it can be so simple, but make such a big impact on somebody.
Yeah, I agree. I hear that a lot from clients, because my calendar, November, December, it spikes. It's because either clients from a mediumship perspective want connection with their loved ones in heaven during this time of year, or it's because the pressure we put on ourselves or society puts on us is heavy. So I'm working with them from a life coaching perspective. But what's interesting is when I ask clients, like, have you talked to anyone, right? And they'll usually say, no, I'm only talking to you about my sadness or my grief because I don't want to bother anyone during the holiday season. And I'm glad that you mentioned that with your clients. It's your patients, I should say, and clients on the mediumship front. But it's important to just get them talking. And so for those listening, if you're working with some kind of a holiday blues, whether it's anxiety or depression or grief, open yourself up. People want to hear it. I look at this time of year as a time of connection and community and gratitude. And if a friend or a family member comes to me and says, hey, I'm hurting, I want to talk, I can't think of a better holiday gift. I don't think of it as a burden at all.
Yeah, just having that support. I think too, I was just thinking, listening to you, but I think kind of back to your expectations, but a lot of times, happy moments, all of the things that really kind of bring us joy in life, when you have experienced the loss of a loved one, or any kind of grief, or going through any kind of grief or trauma or just sadness, when you experience those times that are supposed to be happy, it's almost like a trigger. Like, it can almost trigger people even more. Like, it sets it in because uh it, it just, like, you know what I mean? It requires them to, like, slow down and, like, look at their feelings, but that expectation of the happiness, the happy times that should be there, it just kind of triggers people for some reason.
Yeah. I think that trigger is I'm not where I'm supposed to be. There's
Yeah.
this feeling of I'm off. And I feel like this conversation in and of itself can get people realizing, don't add anxiety on to your anxiety because you're not feeling a certain
Already.
way, right? Like
Yeah.
let's break that. You don't always need to feel happy and jolly and grateful during the holidays. It's one of those, and I think it's intentional too, right? Like from an energetic standpoint, I'll think of it as a snow globe. I think the universe does shake us up towards the end of the year because they want our emotions to be released and cleansed, getting into that new year energy. And so with that being said, again, I kind of want to normalize that it's not supposed to feel all sorts of great these next 2 months. We might be needing to get rid of shame, grief, guilt, whatever is, hanging on to us, false expectations, so we can move into that new year energy.
Yeah, I think too, when you have lost a loved one, sometimes you don't necessarily even want to feel joy without depending on who it is, if it's a spouse, children, siblings, anything like that, parents. Sometimes you're like, do I even really want to feel good without them here? Or maybe you feel guilty for feeling good a little bit. Like, my loved one can't experience this with me. Like, do I really
Yeah.
want to feel good? There's just so many layers to grief, and it can just be so complicated. But I think the important thing is that when you have those feelings surface, because a lot of times you'll say, I should be here. Man, I thought I was over that and I feel it like coming up again. It's like to allow it. It's coming up
Yes.
for a reason. It needs looked at, and just giving that a little bit of love and compassion and acknowledgement will go so far, right?
Yeah, I agree. Let's talk a little bit about what we do as psychic mediums, because for those listening that maybe have never experienced mediumship before, or maybe haven't considered it as a tool for the holidays, right? To kind of navigate it. Talk a little bit about your practice and what you offer during the holidays for those that might need a little extra love and connection.
Yeah, so like I said, I do psychic and mediumship readings. I love helping people on their journeys. So whatever type of reading or kind of guidance that you're needing in your life, I'm here for you. I love doing that. You know, it's my absolute passion. But I think helping to show people that there is a continuity of life, and I think you're more of like into the evidential mediumship side of things, right? Where you're like trying to help give evidential, like provide validation and let people know and realize that their loved ones are just right here with them. You know, they are around us, and we will reconnect with them someday, but just that there is a continuity of life, I think is just so important. And in a way allows us to really live the rest of our lives in more
Mm,
joy, because we don't have that unknowing of like, are they okay? Is there another side? That kind of thing.
yeah, it can
So
provide peace.
yeah,
Yes. I
yeah.
know for me, this holiday season, what I really enjoy working with clients is offering them shared memories of the past. One particular comes to mind from last holiday season. A son who had recently transitioned. He was young. He was in his early 20s. Came in, and he just chatted to me for the half hour about traditions, about what his parents would leave out for Santa Claus for the cookies and milk, and what his stocking looked like, and the snowball fights. And it's just one example of what I'm able to do when somebody's missing their loved one. I can really create a reunion, a memory reel of sorts with them, right? Like, hey, remember this, right? Or, oh, they loved this, or the meatloaf was the favorite. And that feels very special to me. Oftentimes clients will say that they hadn't thought about something like that in forever, or the opposite. They're like, wow, we just thought about that memory, which
We were just talking about that. Yeah. Yeah,
yes,
it's so
yes.
neat how that works. But yeah, to bring up some of those special moments that just that almost like bring your person back to life again. It makes you feel and like reconnect with them again. You know, it's just so important and so special. That's why I think we love what we do so much.
It is
So
really with
amazing.
us. So now let's transition to the more human side of things, because I
Yeah.
think holiday blues, I think also a big coping tool is boundaries. Oftentimes we're getting ourselves too burnt out, or we misinterpret the holidays as like it's the time where we're supposed to overgive, right? Whether it's our time, whether it's our money, whether it's our resources. And I'm curious, Sarah, from a personal standpoint, like what are your holiday blues? Like, what are the things that you navigate, and how do you put up boundaries in your own personal life?
Oh, I think that's something that a lot of, I think, empaths experience a lot is a boundary issue, is because you do tune into and like pick up so much of everybody's stuff around you. And a lot of times it's not always just the positive stuff, right? You pick up
Yeah.
their feelings because you almost want like tune into that because you want to help them feel better or something like that. So I think it's really important that you don't hold yourself to always trying to feel like you have to make other people feel better. You know, I think it's so much better when you're able to kind of tune into and do things for yourself, give yourself a little bit of love, because it's so much, you know, it's impossible to pour, that saying like pouring from an empty cup or giving from an empty
Mm.
cup. You don't want to like creating kind of resentments or give until you can't give anymore, and then everybody else is happy, but you're like, oh, I'm so exhausted, you know.
So true, so true. As an empath, I navigate that too. If I'm not careful, any volunteer organization at the mall, right? I'm like writing the check, right? And to the point where I'm like, what am I doing? Right? I just, committed to buying this for this tree and this for that tree. And I gave this check for this. And so, and because it's my big heart. And so one of the things that I do during the holiday season is I do bring my heart a little bit closer in. And I think that's important to hear because again, there's like this misconception that I want to debunk. The holidays, of course, is meant to be experienced with an open heart, but you can't overgive, right? You need to set boundaries, whether it's a budget, whether it's time boundaries. Over the years, I've gotten very good at saying like that outing sounds lovely, but it's not for me this season. Thank you, right? Because I need that rest and recharge time, or because it just doesn't feel right. So I think whatever category the boundaries are in, it's so important. Or even leaving places early, or saying like, no, we're not doing something this time of year. And that's important too, because we think holidays, traditions, right? 19th year in a row. But my belief is that's not what universe wants from us. Not if it doesn't feel good. Universe wants us to change and adapt and break the chains of things that are no longer serving us, not getting trapped in the same thing over and over, because that's what we've always done.
Yeah, what's funny too is because you think of like Christmas, it's all about get like how you were saying, it's all about giving and caring and like sharing, spreading the love, all of that stuff. But I do feel, and this stood out to me while you were talking, but the like financial, like some people just buy and buy and like, oh, we just have to get them like one more present. And it's like, really, is that what like Christmas is all about? But you hear so much of people. I personally know so many people that it's just like, we have to spend this, we have to get this new gadget. And it's just like overdoing, when it's like, I don't think these kids are any happier than the kids that got 3 presents down the street. It just, I think that's something too to be mindful of, is that you can sometimes overspend or give because you think it's going to create happiness. And it's like, we all know that that's money doesn't equal happiness. So
Thank you for that reminder. It's within us. And you're right. I think sometimes we over try. Okay, we're going to get it bigger and better. The lights outside,
yes.
right? Or the tree, or the this, and this is going to be it. And you can spend so much time and then realize, oh, we didn't spend a lot of time as a family this season because we were just so busy, right? On getting things, bigger and better. I know.
Have you seen that movie, Christmas? What is it? It's a Christmas movie, and it has Danny DeVito, and he's competing with his neighbor, and he's always trying to get like the biggest, best light show, and they end up creating such enemies. And it's actually quite funny. It's a funny movie. I always watch it at Christmas time, but in the end, they become friends, and then they stop their battle. So it's just funny, like it, just the meaning I think behind things is just so much more important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I completely agree. I haven't seen that movie in a while, but I remember it. And I think movies is a nice bunker in kind of way to cope too, right? Like if maybe you're not feeling extroverted, especially because you're grieving, like you said, the loss of a relationship, the loss of a loved one, right? Or that maybe there just doesn't need to be a reason. Maybe just holidays aren't your jam.
Yeah.
Can be a nice way to lean in a little, whatever feels right to you, get that kind of cozy feeling, or whatever message you're going for, and not having to do the go big or go home thing. I actually feel like for the holidays, I get more energized about the new year, and that might be something that people can work on too, if they're like, this is a lot of pressure, because the new year is all about you, right? The holidays tends to be a lot about others, and so if the holidays are adding a lot, maybe start your vision boarding now, right? Like, what do you want your 2023 to look like?
I love vision boards.
I do too.
Yeah.
Sarah, when we think of coping with the holidays, navigating the holidays, can you think of anything else that we haven't talked about, maybe from your nursing career, your psychic mediumship, your personal life, anything that you think would benefit others?
I think especially in grieving the loss of a loved one, it's important to make sure that you slow down and just really take one day at a time. I think when you lose a loved one that you're really close to, kind of trying to look at the whole picture and imagine what your life is going to be like again without this person in your life, it can be overwhelming, right? Like you
Mhm.
don't want to even think about what it's going to look like at the birth, around birthdays, holiday times, when your kids graduate, all of that stuff that they might miss. Um, I think it's just important to kind of slow down and make sure that just you get through your day one day at a time, and make sure that you're doing things that kind of uplift your spirit. I always recommend for people, and I know it's a little bit different topic, but like people that I read for that I know are kind of going through like a self-love journey and kind of
Yeah.
rediscovering who they are without um being like, you know, without your titles. Like if you lose your job, if you lose your spouse, if um I don't know, just who are you without having being a mom and a wife and a whatever it is that you do at your
Yeah.
job, that you take time and do like 3 things a day for yourself. Make a list of like 30 things that you like doing and do like 3 of them a day. And it completely changes how you feel about yourself and how you show up in the world, and can like help other people, and just how you show up for them. I think it's so important.
Sarah, such good advice. And as you were saying that, I'm like, I do a lot of that because yeah, there's loneliness in my life. I moved from Boston to Tampa about 3 years ago. Overall, very happy with the move, but I'm used to snow during Christmas, right? So it's a little sad being here. All
Yeah.
my family's in Boston. And then I have so many other things just the holidays bring up. When I was little, I found out my parents were getting a divorce around the holidays, and my dad died in January. And there again, I don't talk to some family members. So there's all this stuff, but I do that, just like you're saying. I try to remember who I am, separate of Boston, separate of my dad, separate of the family I don't talk to, because it does give me some power, right? That remembering who I am. It's almost like that. The power of detachment, right? Sometimes we can over identify to a person, a place, a thing. Same thing, rituals. If you're going through a divorce and maybe you're going to have the holidays at a different house, or you're only going to get the kiddos for half the day as opposed to a whole the day, it's hard. But just exactly like you said, if we can just do something for us and remember that we are whole, separate from others, that's really important. So I'm so glad that you mentioned that.
Absolutely. I love that topic. I feel like so many people go there or have been there in life and kind of understand what that feels like to like show up for other people more than yourself, or try to always live up to other people's expectations and that, right? So it's important that we try to unlearn those habits and realize just how important and special and unique and individual all of us are. So
Yeah. And trying something new during the holidays, I think I also want to encourage, right? Is you're feeling blue, and from an energetic standpoint, there's stuck energy on you somewhere, right? Like there's stuck energy on you. And so how can you get that energy, that muck off of you? And oftentimes it's activating a new sense, right? What can you see? What can you smell? What can you taste? Maybe it's trying a new food, right? Baking something new, creating something new. Maybe you've never been one to listen to holiday music. Maybe you put that on, right? Maybe you watch a new movie or go to a play. I think those activating the senses in a new way can also do what we had just talked about, that self-care, that getting to know yourself, but it can also create a new rhythm and new energy within you as you're trying to come out of the darkness.
yeah, music. I don't know why too. I love, like sometimes you just turn on the radio and like turn it up, and it just kind of, I don't know, different kinds of music, but it just brings out those feel good vibes. It's hard to feel bad if you're listening to music. It's just so uplifting. It raises the vibration.
Yeah,
Also,
yeah.
I really recommend exercise too, especially if you're feeling really blue or down. You don't have to be an athlete or anything, but like even getting outside and walking, as a nurse, I know that like physical exercise, it just increases your endorphins and like the feel good hormones. So I think it's so important to like get yourself moving, like you were saying, and kind of get rid of some of that stuck energy. It's just so important. A walk, a jog, lifting weights, whatever it is. It's just, I think moving your body, it does something for your brain and your outlook and your emotions. It can just be so uplifting.
It does. I'm glad you mentioned that, especially with it the winter and our friends in the cold. This tends to be a time for hibernation, right? And it's important, to hear that nudge, especially from you as a registered nurse, like, no, keep moving. It makes a difference. And as we're talking about that, again, ways to navigate the blues, don't self-sabotage, right? One cookie, enjoy it. 10 cookies, you're going to be upset after. And those carbs
Yeah.
are not going to help your emotional self, right? I mean, you're just adding to it, right? Although if you make yourself a nice, cranberry relish and you have some turkey, that's feeding your soul, right? And so I think that's important too, because if you're already feeling blue this holiday season, it's easier to go for the carbs. It's easier to go for those alcoholic beverages. But if you're already not feeling great, why add lower energy to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are all the things that make you wake up the next day and you're like, oh, now I feel even worse. All the extra food, that extra glass of wine or whatever it is. It's just, yeah, it overall affects how you feel so much more than like the excess carbohydrates and all of that stuff. You just physiologically, it makes you feel worse. And there's a reason, because it does certain processes and things to your body. And I'm not saying don't enjoy the holidays. It's, have the extra little brownie if you want to, but just make sure you're not doing it every day.
I love it.
Yeah.
Tell me, Sarah, what are you excited about? What does the holidays look like for you? Do you have any things coming up that you're excited to share with yourself and family?
Mostly just getting the family together. I always enjoy, like, we usually have like a family game night, stay up and play some games and all of that. It's simple, but it's just so much fun. It just brings me so much joy.
I love it. I love
Uh,
it.
how
We do
about
an
you?
Thanksgiving, we do an annual. Since we moved to Tampa, we do a 5K first thing on Thanksgiving morning. So it's like a turkey trot. And it's just the right way to start off the morning for us, right? Like we all just get into it, and it's so powerful. And then of course we get to indulge and feel like we earned our lunch. And then right after Christmas, my son and I are gonna hop to Boston for a few days and catch some snow, hopefully, and see some family. So it'll be nice. Yeah.
I do have to say, so being in Colorado, that's like the only time of year that I really love snow is at Christmas time. I'm an outdoorsy. I love the sunshine. I love being warm, but at Christmas time, I love the snow.
It's so
So
great.
I hear you on that. Yeah.
I'll put my air conditioner on so I can just wear a hoodie and put a blanket on. I told my husband, I said, no matter what, we have a fireplace, like go figure. But I was like, no matter what happens this winter, we're using it because we haven't used it. There's no real reason to use it, but like we're using the fireplace. So this year, talk about a new thing we're gonna do, activating the senses. I'm really passionate about having a fire, even if I have to put the air conditioning down to 60. We're gonna do
That's too funny. But I hear you. I love that. I absolutely love the fireplace. You can use a heater all day long, but just like the cozy vibes of the fireplace and having like a good movie on, and it's just so like comforting and warm. I love it.
Yeah, I agree. And we'll do one cheesy movie. The hubby and I, we find one, like the cheesiest of the cheesiest, usually Hallmark, right? Like, and then we'll enjoy that together. And I like that tradition too, right? It's just like something sweet, something predictable. And sometimes predictable can feel good. I remember being younger, like, I'm not going to watch these movies, everything that's going to happen. But now that I'm older and the world is like very chaotic, I'm like, let's go with safe, cute, and predictable, please, right?
Please. Oh my gosh, we need that these days. But their
Yes.
Christmas Story, I always love watching that movie every Christmas. It's just, I don't know, seeing Scrooge wake up and have this whole like change of heart and realize that he can like create all this goodness in the world. It just, I love that movie. It's like my favorite.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for chatting. I
Yeah.
know I
Thank you for
feel uplifted. It was just so great to have a candid conversation about the holidays, right? The good and the hard. Sarah, for those listening, if they're interested in learning more about you, working with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, so you can find me at sarahjanik.com, or you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, or I mean, I've done a little bit of TikTok, but
That's
Facebook or
what you were saying.
Instagram at Sarah Janik Medium.
I love it. I love it. Sarah, thank you so much. All right, my friends, we are going to close down this episode. For all of you that are live, hang tight. Sarah and I are going to be doing free readings. No worries if you're watching the replay. Remember, Onwards with Dr. Danielle is live every Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you soon. All right,
Bye.
take
Take care.
care. Bye.